If you're struggling to perfect your fly fishing cast, you're pretty sure you're following all the rules that you've read in the books, you've seen in the videos, and it's still just not working for you like you wanted. This thing we're going to talk about today is probably what's holding you back. It's the most difficult to master, I think, the most difficult to teach and explain. I'm going to do my best to demonstrate and explain what is probably keeping your cast from being exactly like you want. I'm Chris Myers, Orlando Fly Casting Lessons. I've been teaching fly casting in Central Florida for 15 years. I'm also a full-time fishing guide for Central Florida Sight Fishing Charter. So I've taught lots of people, seen lots of people fish. And the one thing that people who you look at and go, man, that cast is awesome. And then when you look at others, you go, that cast is missing something, but I can't quite tell what it is. It's almost always has to do with how you're applying power across that stroke. We're going to go over here. I'm going to show you a couple different examples. Now, the people who study fly casting a lot more technically and using physics and super high def slow-mo cameras than I ever will tell you that to get the perfect loop, you must have constant acceleration all the way through the cast. And for the most part, that's what I try to do. That's my thought process. But I'm also at the very end of the casts that I make trying to add a little short burst of speed. And to me, that's what controls the size of that loop. The shorter I make that little burst, the tighter the loop. The longer and slower I make it, the wider the loop. So let's look at a couple different loops. I'm going to go as slow as I can. This loop, you can see the shape, it fully straightened out. And I'm going to make what almost appears to be the same cast. That one completely died. It's not going anywhere. Very hard to see in that rod what that difference was. The only thing I was doing in the first one that I wasn't doing in the second one is adding a tiny little burst of speed at the end using my wrist. And I'm doing that in all my casts. Let's make a little longer cast here. Let's make one full same speed all the way across. This line would go out and it would straighten out a pretty decent distance. You get your arm tired from going one speed all the way across. But these loops aren't the most narrow, efficient loops. I'm going to stay with my hand in that same track, but now I'm going to progressively increase that speed across there. The loop is much more narrow. It takes a lot less effort and it makes it much more pleasant to cast that way when I'm doing that. So the secret to getting this all to work is not going one speed too slow, which just gives us a big flop. If we go one speed too fast, we get crazy bending of the rod and we get issues with the back cast. We get a tired arm and a not so awesome cast. We have to get this cast that flings off this tip, and this is why we need a flexible lever, because some of this action is caused by us bending the tip properly, and that smooth pull through the stroke is going to bend your tip a little bit at a time, not have sudden giant bends which are going to cause problems when that bend straightens out. We're going to do it nice and gentle throughout that stroke, and the secret to getting this to work is using your wrist. If you're not using any wrist, it's going to be difficult. If I strap this butt of this rod to my arm and I cast 100% arm, I'm going to try to make my best cast. You see I have to kind of lean back and forth. It's still uncomfortable, awkward, and not such a great looking cast. So anyone telling you do not use any wrist, I think, in my opinion, they're making it much more difficult for you to do. For little bitty short casts, I can do this 100% wrist. I'm giving it a pull, flip, pull, flip, pull, flip. I'm making that same flip with my wrist with longer and longer pulling sessions in between for every different length of line that I cast. So the longer the piece of line, the farther I pull, I still add that little wrist flip at the end. The wrist is giving me that final speed up and stop that I need to make that line jump off my tip. Now, if your cast isn't quite working like you want, And a good test for this is peel off a little extra line, get you 25, 30, 20, 25 feet of fly line or so, pinch it between your fingers. You could even warm up with a few false casts and then let this go. If that line didn't shoot up through those guides like that with the same amount of effort you were using every single stroke, then you probably don't have a well-formed loop or very good line speed. So once again, pinch it between your fingers, make a false cast, and just let it go in that same spot. All that line shot up through there. I didn't have to do it any harder whatsoever. If that's not happening for you, then you probably don't have very good line speed or a well-formed loop, and it's probably because of how you're applying that power across that stroke. If I'm going too slow, all one speed, 2/3 of it, maybe half of it went out, I could probably make this go out by going one speed all the way across. Well, no, it didn't work. I did it super hard. That didn't work either. How you apply that power smoothly, like a gas pedal, hook up your tires, get them going, get that cast going, and when you're going to finish that cast, we're going to rotate that rod tip over, put that gas pedal to the floor, and finish with an extra tiny little burst of speed to a sudden stop. Your cast will jump off your rod tip. If you're going to be visiting Central Florida, come and see me for a one-on-one casting lesson or a year-round fishing charter. I also have lots of other videos on how you can tune up your cast. You can check one of those out right here.